Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to part 2 of our series on Introduction to Accounts Payable and Accounts Receivable. All right, and in the last video, we covered why people still write checks, and we basically said it saves money, it's more secure, you're more protected, and it doesn't cost anything outside of the paper that it's written on to make the transactions happen. Okay, and as consumers, though, we like to just simply slide our cards in, but that might cost the company money. Okay, and depending on the company, that cost might be expensive depending on who you are and how many transactions occur. So let's go ahead and carry on now to one, what exactly the difference is between a receivable and a payable, okay? And two, how exactly do we write checks? Because there's a certain series of rules that need to be followed. So let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so payables versus receivables. All right, a receivable, okay, means one, an adjective or descriptive word, able to receive, okay? Noun, it means the amounts owed to a business or an entity. Pretty simple, okay? In other words, if the business is waiting to receive money from somebody, okay, it is a receivable, okay? Now, we usually don't think about that in middle school because we're used to just going to a store, okay, and buying something and paying it right away, okay? But believe it or not, when you are registering or ringing something up, you are creating a receivable. And that receivable is only open for just a few seconds while you're making that transaction happen by swiping your card, paying cash, paying check, so on and so forth, right? Now, businesses, what they will do is they will often bill other companies, okay? And when they bill the other company, they're saying, okay, you have a certain time period after you receive this bill to make this payment happen or make the transaction happen, okay? And they have what they call a receivable. And you're probably familiar with this. If you receive a bill, or if somebody or your parents or your guardians or somebody receives an electric bill, right? Well, that means you have a certain time to pay that bill. You receive it on one date and then it's not technically due for another date, right? Well, while that bill is in your hands, that company, the electric company, has created a receivable, which makes sense, right? Or if you are a lender, right, and you send out the monthly payment, you have that receivable, right? Or if you have a loan, okay, and you are making payments on the loan until that loan is fulfilled, you have a receivable. You're waiting to receive it. Now, if somebody owes Mr. C money, right, technically Mr. C has a receivable. Why? Because I'm waiting to receive that money. Pretty simple, right? And of course, payable then means, as you can see there, adjective for required to be paid or due or able to be paid, right? Or as a noun, amounts owed by a business or company or entity, right? In other words, if Mr. C needs to pay the electric bill, I have a payable. I receive the bill, it is due, okay? I can pay that anytime. I can either pay it on the due date, I can pay it before then, hopefully not after, okay? And so technically that is a payable. It's a bill I'm waiting to pay. Additionally, right, each month I have a payable for my truck payment, okay? I continue to make those truck payments, right? And until that truck payment is paid for in full, I still have that payable. Now, businesses might be big enough where they have an accounts payable and accounts receivable department, okay, which is a really, really cool place to be at. It means you are a company that has sent out multiple bills, right, and you're waiting to receive money, and multiple people have sent and businesses have sent you bills and you're waiting to pay them, right? So accounts payable, accounts receivable is the area in charge and responsible for that, all right? All right, so how exactly do we write a check? And it's pretty simple. As you can see here, we have a blank check and somebody's hand writing something here, right? And let's pretend here then that we have a bill for My Town Water Company. In other words, that's the name of the company, is My Town Water Company, in the amount of $18.71. Okay, fair enough, right? So they immediately start by filling in the date here, right? That is important because that tells the bank when you authorized that account. In other words, when you authorized that transaction. Never, ever, ever, never write a date beyond what the current date is, also known as a post-dated check. That is illegal, all right? You are supposed to write the amount right here, the date, the time you are making that transaction authorized. In other words, the day you write the check. All right? Never before, okay? Never after. Only the day of. As you can see here, this example was documented on July 13th of 2015. All right? Next thing, pay to the order of. This is the contract, okay? This is saying, okay, when this check is presented to my bank, okay, and the company that presents it is My Town Water Company, My Town Water Company will receive the amount that is written on the check, all right? It is the order. Just like you make an order to the waitress at a restaurant, right? As soon as you make the order, that's what you expect to be brought to you, okay? That's what happens here, is you're expecting them to get paid, all right? So this is the recipient, the company, or the entity of the person you are writing the check, all right? That's going to be a proper noun, okay? Proper noun. Not to electric company. Electric company is just a thing, okay? So, or not just water company or water bill, okay? Or groceries if you're writing a check at Publix. This is always a proper noun, okay? Paid to the order of, okay? So if somebody were to pay Mr. Cadle's money, right? I have two businesses that I operate, okay? I have Cadle, the artist, okay? The artist known as Cadle, okay? And I have On the Mic Entertainment. They could write a check to either. Or they could also write a personal check to myself, my full name, Michael Cadle. All right, pretty simple there. All right, the next spot is the amount, okay? Now, Mr. C has a slight disagreement with the way this is filled out here, okay? Now, this is the dollar amount, the dollar amount box, so that they can see, okay, how much money are you going to write? Now, notice this. It says written in dollars and cents. It says, those aren't hashtags, those are number signs, so number, and cents, so dollar and cents. Even if it is a 0 cents, you still write it. You don't just leave 18 and those and what have you. Just use the zeros, okay? However, I do disagree with one thing, and that has to do with the 71 here. That dot is so easy to change. What would happen if I were to move this dot over? What do we have then? Do we have $18.71, or do we have $187.10. Okay? So don't use the dot, okay? I don't like the dot format. To keep myself protected, this is just Mr. C's advice. You can do it however way you want to, but I use the fraction format, okay? So I would write 1871 over 100. Why 100? Well, how many cents are in a dollar, okay? All righty, there we go. And you don't need to round down either. You don't need to put 1/4, right, for a quarter. No, just 25, 100, okay? Pretty simple there. All right, the long format must equal and be the same as the dollar amount. Notice here they used a fraction, and that's fine. You can do it either way. I prefer both ways, right? The long term means you got to know how to spell the numbers, right? And be careful where you write the and, okay? If you write it, so like you were writing this amount for $187.10, if you were, right? That and indicates the decimal, okay? But if you wrote this and put 171 and, okay, that's confusing. It needs to be whole number format. So long format written out, okay, must equal the amount in the dollar box, okay? The for or the memo is a 100% optional thing, a 100% optional thing, okay? You don't have to do it. Now, notice this person put an account number on there. Now, here's why they put an account number, okay? Think about this. Does My Town Water Company have one single account or multiple accounts? Probably multiple, right? Because they serve a lot of customers. So by putting your account number on there, it's an added insurance that the proper account will be documented, okay? You don't want to be in a situation where somebody else gets your money that you paid. That happened to Mr. C once. I came home and my lights were off. And I'm like, why are my lights off? I paid my bill. So I called the company up, okay? And sure enough, they accidentally accredited somebody else's account with my money. That was quickly fixed, okay? So you could also put an optional note to self for the recipient. Like, hey, this money is for rent payment for next month, okay? Or this is for a birthday gift. Do you have to put something there? No, okay? In fact, don't just write account on there if you don't have an account you're paying for. That's silly, okay? So it's an optional note to self in that for section. And then finally, the signature. The signature is the authorized user to write the checks. In other words, the person whose on the account and okay to write the checks themselves. If somebody else's name appears on there, it's not authorized, all right? So if I have a checking account, right, and it's only me who's the authorized user, right, and somebody else gets my checkbook and starts writing checks, not going to work, okay, because I'm the one who's authorized, and my signature is on file with my bank, all right? And there you go. That's how you write a check, okay? Now notice a couple different things here. One, we have the name of the bank, okay? This is the bank in which if you take it to them, they will honor it, or if you take it to your bank, they'll contact this bank and transfer the money, okay? These on the bottom are the MICR, or the magnetic ink character recognition numbers, and see how they're kind of formatted funny, okay? And what you want to do is you always want to check to make sure that this number here matches this number here. Sometimes this number will be in the middle over here, but usually this will match up with that. All right, a little extra security for y'all. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you write a check. So you have been tasked with writing 3 different checks, okay? And you will see these prompts on Google Classroom. Make the first check payable to Tire Kingdom in the amount of $139.15, okay? Number 2, make it payable to Nancy Drew Agency in the amount of $225. Pretty easy. All I got to do is just write the check to who, put the amount in, right? And then number 3, all right, make it payable to, what's the name of the business? The name of the business is I Mowed Your Yard, okay? That's the name of their business. Put it, when you make it for the check, they are providing you with a service called lawn service, all right? So you're not going to make it payable to lawn service, but what might you put that lawn service? Where might you put that on that check? Think about that and make sure that check is written for $45. And Mr. C will go over the answers with you here after a little bit.